Rambam, the laws of the sabbatical year, the seventh year. We begin from the beginning. Shemitah, which means sabbatical year. Laws of the sabbatical and jubilee year, which is the 50th year. They contain 22 mitzvahs, 9 positive and 13 negative commandments. They are: the earth should rest on the seventh year from the labor performed because of it. Not to perform, number 2, not to perform agricultural work during this year. 3, not to perform the work with trees during this year. 4, not to harvest produce that grows on its own in an ordinary manner. Okay, the video 11 people, please. Thank you. Not to harvest grapes in an ordinary manner. To give up ownership of all the produce of the earth. To renounce all debts. Not to pressure a debtor, nor to demand payment from him. Number 9. Excuse me. To refrain from lending before the sabbatical year, so that one will not forfeit his money. To count the years in sets of 7. To sanctify the 50th year, that's a jubilee year. To sound the shofar on the 10th of Tishrei on the 50th year, the Yovel jubilee year, so that the servants will be released as free. Let Libe, thanks. Not to perform agricultural work during this year. Not to harvest produce that grows on its own in an ordinary manner. Not to harvest grapes in an ordinary manner. To provide the redemption of the land during this year. This refers to the laws pertaining to the ancestral fields and purchased fields. And so we say not to harvest grapes in an ordinary manner. We said that already in number 5, but that was speaking about a sabbatical year. Now we're speaking about a jubilee year, the 50th year. To provide, number 16, for the redemption of the land during the year. This refers to the laws pertaining to ancestral fields and purchased fields. Which, interesting, is in this week's Torah portion we're going to have. That the land never be sold in a permanent manner. The laws pertaining to the sale of homes in walled cities. That the tribe of Levi should not receive a tribal inheritance in Eretz Yisrael. Instead, they are given cities to live in it as presents. That the tribe of Levi not take a portion of the spoils of war. To give the Levites cities to dwell in together with their open land. The open land of their cities never be sold permanently. Instead, they have the opportunity to redeem it whether before the Jubilee year or afterwards. These mitzvahs are contained in the following chapters. Okay. Positive commandment to rest from performing agricultural work or work with trees in the sabbatical year, as the verse says, and the land shall rest like the Shabbos unto God, like a Sabbath unto God. In Parshas Ba'aloischa. It says that you shall rest with regard to plowing and harvesting. When a person performs any labor upon the land or with trees during this year, he nullifies the observance of this positive commandment and violates the negative commandment: do not sow the field and do not trim your vineyard. Accordingly, the scriptural law, a person is not liable for lashes except for the following labors: sowing, trimming, harvesting grain, and harvesting fruit, both from vineyards and other trees. So that would be a transgression of a biblical law. Okay. Trimming is considered in the category of sowing, and harvesting fruit is considered in the category of harvesting grain. If so, why did the Torah single them out? Right? Why is it singling out harvesting grain? Sowing, which trimming is a part of, harvesting fruit, which is part of harvesting grain. So why is it single it out? That's to teach that one is liable for lashes for performing these two derivatives alone. For the other derivatives that involve working the land and other major categories of labor that were not mentioned exclusively by the Torah in this contrast, one is not liable for lashes. He's however given strict rebellious conduct. Right, so this is telling us that the derivatives you would be punished. You're liable for lashes. Remember, lashes is only when there's two witnesses warning you in advance of, here in this instance would be trimming your your hedges. And trimming your head means here, it doesn't mean like your bushes. It means trimming for harvesting purposes, right? So you get a better harvest. Not like if you have bushes in front of your house. Here we're talking about, that's what, once again, I'm pretty certain that that's what it means. Like if it was not something that had produce, we're only speaking about produce here. So you would be liable for lashes. But other derivatives that are involved working the land, let's see. He would not be liable for biblical liability, but a rabbinic one, which would be rebellious conduct. So what is implied? So when a person digs, okay, now he gives the example, or plows for the sake of the land, removes stones, fertilizes the land, or performs another similar type of work on the land, or extends, grafts, plants, or performs other similar types of works with the trees, is given stripes for rebellious conduct. So in other words, um, second. So digging, plowing would not be a biblical prohibition, but it's rabbinic. Fertilizing, all of that, you're enhancing the land, but that's not called biblical idea of working the land, harvesting the land, right? I guess they're like too preparatory, and therefore not directly they're not direct in leading to the harvest, I guess. That's what my understanding. And therefore it's not a biblical, because in the end, it's not so much about, you know, in the end, it's not so much about the land, leaving it, for the sake of the land. It's for the sake of our recognition that we're dependent on God for our livelihood. So it's those things that are more directed to the livelihood, which of course is the harvest itself, right? But other things like fertilizing, which is helping the harvest, helping things grow, but that is not direct, so therefore it's not biblical. That's my understanding. But it's rabbinic because it's in the spirit of it, and therefore uh, one is um, not allowed to do it. Okay. So number 5, we do not plant even non-fruit bearing trees in the sabbatical year. Right? That also must be only, I would imagine, rabbinic. Excuse me. Nor may one cut an abnormal outgrowth from a tree, remove dried leaves and branches, apply dust to the top of the tree. I think that was a protection. It benefits certain trees. Or smoke a tree so that the worms that infest it die. Again, that's not directly bringing you to the harvest, but it is improving everything for the harvest, and therefore you're not allowed to do it. Someone might not apply a foul-smelling potion to the plants so that the birds will not eat them when they are soft. One should not apply oil to unripened fruit, nor should one perforate them. One should not bind plants, nor trim them, nor prepare a support for a tree, of perform probably any other work with trees. If one performs any of these labors about a year, it's given stripes for rebellious conduct. Again, that's rabbinic. That's what it means. Rebellious conduct means rebellious against the rabbinic law, and given stripes, lashes. One may not light a fire in the overgrowth of trees because this is considered working the land. We train a cow to plow only in sand. Not land that could be used for crops, because that would be a benefit. Why do you have to train them? I guess if you don't train them at a certain point through that year, they won't be able to do it thereafter. That's what I'm understanding. We train a cow to plow only in sand. Yeah, we do not test the viability of seeds in a flower pot full of earth, but we may test them in a flower pot full of dung. Wow. I guess because you're making a distinction, because usually you don't sow in dung. And to do that, so that you're making a distinction. In other words, the whole point here is to have an awareness. I don't know if the whole point is, that's too much for me to say, but the idea of sabbatical year is that God is the one that we get our blessings from. So anything that's going to lead to your regular routine of planting, which regular routine of planting means, you're kind of dependent on your work to make the harvest. And here, since it's sabbatical year and you can't do it, and these things also, like, you want to test a seed, not certain why I guess for after the sabbatical year, when you're going to be able to then seed the field, right? So you want to test it. So don't test it in a regular fashion. One might sow seeds in the sabbatical year in order to plant them in the following year. right? Because you're not doing it, right? Because you're not working the land or doing anything. Yeah. We may allow plants on top of the roof, but we do not water them. Because that promotes their growth by watering them. Okay, I have to stop over here. Hey, folks, God bless you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We'll continue our learning, God willing, tomorrow morning. Have an amazing, great day. God bless you all. Thank you.